exam kasi yung special exam gagawin ko ng essay, hindi na multiple choice. So, essay na yung magiging special exam. Nandito ba yung group ng family planning?
Yes po, Doc.
Okay, sige, okay lang, mauna kayo mag-report. Tapos magsusupplement ako ng info kapag may nakita ako.
Sige po, Doc.
Thank you. Sabihin niyo kapag ready na kayo, i-re-record ko yung discussion.
Doc, okay na po, Doc.
Sige, so start na tayo. Record ko lang ha. Makinig kayo sa lesson, magpapa-graded recitation ako.
So, good morning, Doc. Good morning, classmates. We are here to discuss about the natural and artificial method of contraceptions. So, the reporters of these topics are Jerry Sung Lao, Narvaez Gian, Espiritu Raisa, and me, Dayday Joanna.
Hi guys, I'm Larva Eslian. For the fa- for the family planning, the natural family planning methods do not include any chemical or foreign body introduction into the human body. Siya yung less invasive na mga first procedures. While sa artificial family planning, yung artificial contraception, it refers to the conscious prevention of impregnation of conception by using different drugs, devices, or other scientific techniques. Siya yung mga more on invasive procedures. So, next slide. Next slide po. Overview lang ng menstrual cycle since related siya sa natural method and serves as review na rin. So the first stage, yung menstrual phase, also known as period, yung mga forms, yung mga na-form na eggs from previous cycle is hindi na na-fertilize. And if hindi na-fertilize, that means no pregnancy. And if no pregnancy, the estrogen and progesterone is at their low levels. Kasi there's no baby naman eh. And after that, yung thickened lining na na-form nung previous cycle is no longer needed. So there's shedding and breakdown ng lining. So dito magkakaroon ng release of blood, mucus, tissue sa vagina ng isang babae. Ayun, dahil doon nagkakaroon ng menstruation. For the second stage, yung follicular phase, nagsistart to from first day of period. So nag-overlap siya sa menstrual phase and ends when you ovulate. So natatapos siya when ovulation phase starts. Going back, yung hypothalamus nagsisignal siya sa pituitary gland na mag-release ng follicle-stimulating hormones or abbreviated as FSH. Yung FSH, ini-stimulate niya yung ovary to produce 5 to 20 follicles. But eventually, only one healthiest egg will mature. And as it matures, nagkakaroon siya ng increased estrogen, which results thickening ng lining ng uterus ng isang babae. So next slide. For the third stage naman, yung ovulation phase, sa ovulation phase naman, there's an increasing or rising levels of estrogen, which triggers the pituitary gland to release luteinizing hormone naman, or abbreviated as LH, which starts the process ng ovulation. So this is where your pregnancy occurs. So it has the possibility that this stage can get you pregnant na. So one of the symptoms of ovulation phase is there's slight increase in basal body temperature, and there's also white discharge from vagina. So yung discharge na yon is parang alam niyo yung puti ng itlog ng manok, yung puti nun, ganun yung discharge niya. That means nag-ovulate na siya. So sa last stage naman, yung luteal phase, yung egg na nire-release ng follicles, magiging corpus luteum siya. And that it produces mainly progesterone. So mas madami yung progesterone. Pero meron ding iilan na estrogens. So there's some estrogen. And because of this, it thickened the lining of the uterus, which is prepared na siya for pregnancy. So kapag hindi nagamit or walang fertilization, walang pagbubuntis na naganap, yung corpus luteum is lumiliit siya and it starts to decay. And with that, nababa na rin yung progesterone levels, which causes the uterus lining to shed. And ayun, period begins again ulit. Next, So dito na tayo sa natural method. So the first natural method is yung abstinence. Sa abstinence lang guys, tatandaan nyo, yung pinaka-whole thought nito is there's no interaction. There's no sexual intercourse, no coitus or what. Wala lang, parang wala lang talagang ganap sa isa't isa, ganun. Walang siping, ganun. But isa to sa pinaka-effective na natural method. But unfortunately, konti lang yung gumagawa. So next naman. Dito naman sa calendar method, also known as reading method, need mo dito ng calendar para matrack yung length ng menstrual cycle mo and matulungan ka ma-predict yung fertile days mo. If nakuha mo yung fertile days mo, you should refrain from having sexual intercourse. So hindi rin siya applicable sa mga babae na irregular menstruation na below 27 days and more than 32 days yung menstrual cycle nila. So next, next page pa. So how to calculate calendar method ba? So first is list your menstrual cycle and yung short and long cycle for at least 6 consecutive months. So yung short cycle mo and long cycle mo, need mo siya i-track. So to find the shortest cycle, subtract the day of your shortest cycle to 18, and the difference is the first fertile day. So for example lang, sa short cycle, meron kang 26 days na menstrual cycle. I-minus mo lang siya sa 18. Yung 18 is constant yun. So, ayun, yung 26 days minus 18 is equal to 8. Then, count 8 times starting first day of menstrual cycle. So, for example, next slide nga. So, ayan guys, as you can see, yung period niya nag-start ng Wednesday nung 4. So, count kayo ng 8 times. So, sa 4, simula sa 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yung 8 na pang-8 na, yung pang-8 niya, nung nag-count kayo, nag-land siya sa 11, which is dun yung first fertile day, which is unsafe na to have sex. Palas naman. Pabalik sa slide. So, to find the long cycle naman, subtract the day of your longest cycle to 11, and the difference is the last fertile day. So yung long cycle niya is 30 days minus 11. So guys, yung 11 din is constant. Then it equals to 19. So yung count ka lang 19 days, 19 times starting first day of menstrual cycle, and the result will be the last. Yan. So count ka lang mag-start ka uli dito sa 4 basta kung kailan ka nag-start ng period mo. So count ka 19 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Yung sa 19, nag-land siya sa Sunday ng 22. So yun yung last fertile day mo. So from 11 up to 22 is you should refrain on having sex with your partner. Since doon yung mostly may possibility na magkaroon ka ng baby. Ganun. For the basal body temperature naman, ito yung temperature at rest. Then you must take yung pagkagising mo, dapat nasa tabi mo lang talaga yung thermometer. Before ka mag-execute ng any other activities, literal na pagising mo, that's the time na you should take your temperature orally. And pwede rin siya ng vaginally and rectally. And syempre, sterile naman sa pag-i-insert. At saka, huwag naman paiba-iba. Like for example, na-take mo na yung thermometer mo, na-take mo na siya ng yung basal body temperature mo, na-take mo na siya ng vaginally sa first day. Then second day, nag-rectally ka naman. Then sa third day, nag-orally ka naman. Wag naman ganon. Gamol yun. So, kapag nag-orally ka na ng first day, the rest of the days, sa mga susunod na araw, mag-orally ka na lang. Huwag ka na mag-vaginal. So, yung thermometer nito is hindi yung thermometer ng 1 decimal na ginagamit natin sa hospital, yung nag-duty tayo. Meron ditong ang need dito is yung 2 decimal thermometer. Just like nung nasa picture na nasa slide. Para mas maging accurate yung chart mo. Ayan yung katulad niya. Yung basal body thermometer for ovulation. Yan yung need mo bilhin. So you should take if notices there is a slight decrease and then increase in her temperature, this is the sign that she has ovulated. So makikita niyo later. So take for several months para ma-compare and ma-measure mo kung kailan ka lagi nag-ovulate. So woman must abstain from coitus for the next 3 days. Next slide pa. So ito yung example ng basal body temperature method. Meron tayong tinatawag na 3/6 rule. 3 high temperatures and 6 lower temperatures. So need mo talaga ma-note yung temperature mo for several months para madali mo ma-compare and ma-measure. And as well as ma-implement mo tong 3/6 rule if gagamit ka ng basal body temperature method. So yung 3 high temperatures, as you can see, yung cycle niya is 28 days. Then yung ovulation niya is day 17. So yung 3 high temperatures mo rito is yung 18, 19, 20. Then yung 6 lower temperatures mo here is from day 17, count ka pa balik ng 6 days. And yung days na yun is sama mo yung ovulation day, yung 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, and 12. As you can see, yung 17 to day 12. Yung day 12 to day 17 is mababa yung temperature niya. That's the 6. Then, naging high temperature siya. So, yun yung 3. So, yun yung ibig sabihin ng 3/6 rule. Then, para malaman mo kung kailan yung ovulation mo, yung pinaka-last na lower temperature bago mag-high temperature, yun yung ovulation mo. So, ano ba yung last na lower temperature mo dito sa 3/6 rule, yung 6, yung lower temperature. ano yung pinaka-last na lower temperature mo. 'Di ba 17 bago siya mag-increase sa high temperature. So that's the time. That's the uh that's your ovulation phase, ganun. You should refrain from having coitus for the next 3 days, as usual, para hindi ka maging preggy. So, next naman, sa cervical mucus naman, yung basis method lang nito is it changes the cervical mucus during ovulation. And to check if the woman is ovulating, the cervical mucus must be copious, thin, and watery. As I said a while ago, sa ovulation phase, di ba yung texture niya, it has to be egg white ng egg, ng itlog ng manok, ganun. So, the cervical mucus must exhibit the property of spin barkiite. So, makikita nyo sa next slide kung ano yung spin barkiite, wherein it can be stretched up at least 1 inch and it feels slippery. So, as long as the cervical mucus is copious and watery, and a day after it, therefore, she must avoid coitus during these days, since it's her ovulation phase. Pa-next slide nga, Pat. Ayan. So, ito yung progressive cervical mucus chart. So, yung spin barkiite na sinasabi ko kanina, yung pinaka-definition niya lang is yung nasa-stretch mo using your thumb and index finger. So, yun lang talaga. Parang in layman's term, stretch mo lang talaga. Yun yung tawag sa spin barkiite. So, if dry, tacky cervical mucus, it's not fertile. Pag creamy, sticky cervical mucus, not fertile pa rin. Ito na, kapag cloudy, stretchy cervical mucus, ito na yung sorry. Ito na yung semi-fertile. So, papunta na siya sa ovulation. Then, ito na, sa watery, stretchy, parang egg white cervical mucus. Parang egg white texture na siya ng chicken. Dito ka na most fertile. Dito na yung ovulation, nagsa-start yung ovulation. So, dito ka mostly magiging pregnant. Pa-next slide. So, for symptothermal naman, ito yung combination ng basal body temperature method and the cervical mucus method. So, araw-araw, chine-check ng babae yung temperature niya before doing any other activities or before getting up, ganun. And also note any changes in her cervical mucus every day. So, pinagsama lang talaga siyang BBT and then yung cervical mucus method. So, kapag may na-notice siyang mga peak ng temperature or peak ng mucus, may mga mucus change, so avoid having sex because ayun, doon ka mostly magiging pregnant. For the next reporter, here's Patricia Dayday.
So, good morning. So, yung next is ovulation detection. So, this is the test to detect a rise in luteinizing hormone in the urine. So, yung ovulation detection, ito yung ginagamit na pang test para ma-detect yung luteinizing hormone ng isang babae sa urine niya. At sa isang babae, doon sa urine niya, kung nag-increase ba yung hormone niya. Kasi kapag nag-increase na yung hormone niya sa urine niya, signal na yung ovary mo ay magre-release na ng egg. So, paano nga ba siya pine-perform? So, yung ovulation detection kit kasi, meron siyang 5 to 7 na stick. Then, kailangan mong itest yung urine mo several days para ma-detect yung surge ng luteinizing hormone mo. So, yung surge in luteinizing hormone mo, nagkakos siya na yung ovary mo is to release ng mature egg around the second week of each menstrual cycle. So, kapag nga yung high luteinizing level mo around this time, meaning you are at the moment of your cycle na most likely na magiging preggy ka. So, kailan mo siya kailangan gamitin? So, yung specific time of month mo kasi, usually, mag-i-start ka depende sa haba ng menstrual cycle mo. Halimbawa, yung length ng menstrual cycle mo is 28 days. Ang ovulation mo is 14 kasi kaya naging 14 days yung 14 day yung ovulation date mo kasi ima-minus mo siya into 14. So, 28 minus mo siya sa 14, ayun na yung ovulation date mo. And itetest mo siya prior to your ovulation expected date mo. So, yung 14, prior siya. So, magbigay tayo ng 3 days before ng expected ovulation date mo. So, itest mo siya in day 11. Then, so, gawin mo lang is kailangan mong umihi dun sa urinate stick or pwede naman sa isang sterile container ka iihi, then lagay mo yung stick doon sa container. Then kapag nag-positive result yon, mag-iiba siya ng kulay. So, ibig sabihin, na-detect niya na yung surge ng luteinizing hormone mo na nag-rise. So, kapag positive result, meaning ovulate ka into next 24 hours. So, may expiration din yung mature egg natin sa loob ng ano natin. So, 24 hours lang siya, then may expire na siya. Then yung 99% yung accurate niya in detecting the luteinizing hormone surge that precedes ovulations. So, lactation amenorrhea is a way for breastfeeding to temporarily help prevent pregnancy. So, familiar naman tayo lahat sa breastfeeding. So, bale, ito naman na isang way na temporarily na ma-prevent yung pregnancy. Pero kailangan tama yung breastfeed natin. So, kapag kasi sinabing lactation, meaning yung katawan ng isang babae ay nagpo-produce or gumagawa ng breast milk. And kapag naman amenorrhea, na ibig sabihin, hindi ka nagkakaroon ng menstruation. So, yung breastfeeding hormone kasi maaring i-stop niya yung katawan mo mula sa paglabas ng egg. So, paano nga ba magagamit para ma-prevent yung pregnancy? So, yung lactation amenorrhea, nagwo-work siya kapag yung baby is under 6 months. So, magpapa-breastfeed ka kailangan within 6 months. Consistent yon. And kailangan din yung baby ay fully breastfeed. Then, ibig sabihin, yung baby, hindi dapat nakainom ng ibang gatas like formula milk or mga food such as. Then, yung menstruation kasi, hindi din bumalik. Meaning, hindi ka pa nagkakaroon ng bleeding sa vaginal mo sa loob ng 2 or higit pang sunod na araw sunod. Then hindi ka bilang doon yung bleeding mo sa unang 2 months pagkatapos mo manganak. So yung effective niya is 98 against pregnancy for the first 6 months after giving birth. So yung coitus interruptus naman, it is the withdrawal of penis out of the vagina before ejaculation. So, yung coitus interruptus, also known as withdrawal. Bale, ito ay isang tradition sa pagpaplan ng family kung saan tinatanggal ng lalaki ang kanyang ari mula sa ari ng babae. At sa malayong labas ng genital ng babae bago niya ejaculate to. So, pinipigilan ng coitus interruptus yung sperm na pumasok dun sa ari ng babae para maiwasan yung contact between dun sa spermatozoa and yung ovum. So, yung effective ng coitus interruptus is 80% effective. And 1 out of 5 people nag-rely na yung full out of method is birth control become pregnant. So, artificial method. So first is the oral contraceptive, also known as the pill, contain of hormones, estrogen, progestin, and progestin only, and must be taken orally once per day. So, how to use it? So take 1 pill every day for 21 days, in 3 weeks in a row. Then yung take any pills for 7 days week 4. So, yung week 4 kasi, ayan na yung time na menstruation week mo. So, 21 days mo lang siya i-take. Then, yung effective niya is oral, 99% effective if you use perfectly. But in reality, yung pill is about 93% effective. Then, yung, meron kasing 3 type ng pills. Ito yung combined pill. Kinoconsist niya nga yung estrogen and progestin. Ito yung 21 days pack. So, 1 pill per day mo siya iti-take. Then, yung followed 7 days of non-use for menstruation nga. Yung pang 28 days mo. Ayun yung 4 weeks mo. And yung progestin only, consist naman siya ng progestin lang. So, 28 days packs naman siya. So, yung all pills are active. Suggested to be taken daily at the same time within 3-hour window. Then yung extended continuous naman niya, it is consists of estrogen and progestin. So 91 days packs naman siya. So 84 days yung active hormone pills, then yung followed by 7 inactive pills and or low dose estrogen. So nagre-result siya in a period per year. So next is transdermal patch. So transdermal patch is a form of patch and it releases hormones through your skin that prevent pregnancy. So yung patch na yon is nagre-release siya ng daily dose of hormones sa skin natin into the bloodstream para ma-prevent nga yung pregnancy. And nagko-contain siya ng same hormones as the combined pill, estrogen and progestogen, and works in the same way by preventing the release of egg each month. Yun nga yung ovulation. So, paano siya nagwo-work? So, bali yung patches ay nagre-release nga ng hormone through the skin into the bloodstream para ma-prevent yung pregnancy. At pinapakapal niya din yung cervical mucus para mahirapan yung sperm makagalaw papunta sa cervix. So, paano naman siya gagamitin? So, lagay mo lang yung patch and tanggalin mo siya after 7 days. Then, palitan mo siya ng bago. So, palitan mo uli siya hanggang maka 3 weeks. Then yung pang 4 weeks, ito yung patch pre mo. So, ibig sabihin, hindi ka maglalagay dahil ito na yung pang 4 weeks mo. Ibig sabihin, ito na yung withdrawal bleeding mo tulad ng, yun nga, may menstruation ka na. Although, hindi ito madalas nangyayari. Pagkatapos naman ng 7 days patch pre mo, lagay ka ulit. Same cycle din na 3 weeks maglalagay ka. Basta every week, papalitan mo siya. Then, simula uli kayo ng cycle hanggang magkaroon kayo ng bleeding. So, saang parte siya nilalagay? So, yung patch, lagay mo lang siya sa skin mo. Pwede mo siya lagay sa most areas ng katawan mo as long as yung balat mo ay malinis, tuyo, at hindi mabuhok. Wag mo lang siyang ilalagay dun sa mga irritated skin mo or sa breast or sa area where may get rubbed off by tight clothing. So, next reporter. Miss Jerry Sunglaw.
Thank you, Miss Dayday. So next is vaginal ring. So, ano nga bang ginagawa na itong vaginal ring? So, para maprotektahan tayo nito, yes, ma'am.
Pabalik nga dun sa OCP. Question dun sa reporter. Allowed ba na mag-take ng oral contraceptive pill ang babaeng naninigarilyo?
Hindi po, ma'am.
Bakit? Bakit contraindicated ang ang pill sa taong may smoking history or currently nag-smoke?
Kasi po, ma'am, risk siya doon sa mga infection na makukuha niya or medical conditions po. Then yung nicotine kasi ma'am, toxic siya sa pagpapaano po, nag-i-increase po siya ng blood pressures po. So kapag kasi po nag-combine yung 2 substance na yon, parang magkakaroon po yung ng stress yung blood vessels niya.
Nakaka-cause ba ng cancer ang pills?
Yes po ma'am.
Anong specific cancer?
Breast cancer po.
Sure na?
Po?
Sure ka na?
Po.
Sige. So, discuss natin kung pwede bang mag-pills ang babae na may history ng smoking or currently nag-smoke. Tsaka ano yung association ng pills tsaka ng cancer. Okay? So, later after ng discussion yon. Okay? Proceed, Miss Jerry.
Next slide po. Next pa po. So yan, gaya nga ng sabi ko kanina, ang nilalabas nitong vaginal ring is progesterone and estrogen. Kaya, napoprotektahan nito yung babae sa ovulation. So, paano ba 'to ginagamit? So, yung silicone ring is siyempre pinapasok siya sa vagina and then mag-i-stay siya dun for 3 weeks and then tatanggalin siya sa 4th week kapag mag-i-start na yung menstruation. So, next slide. Yun. Once na matanggal na yung ring sa sa vagina, dun yun nilalagay sa may cervix. Ayun, nakikita naman sa picture. So, once na matanggal na yan, ibig sabihin yung babae is fertile na ulit. So, ang effectiveness niyan is kagaya ng sa oral contraceptives, kung binasa niyo yung PPT kanina, nasa 93% yung effectiveness niya. Next, subdermal implants. So, sabi dito, it is a 4 centimeter two-rod shape implants called subdermal implants. So, ito ay nilalagay sa may ilalim ng balat during menstruation or sa dulo or sa last day ng menstruation. So, effective ito for 3 to 5 years. So, paano nito pinoprotektahan yung babae? So, gaya nga nung kanina, naglalabas din ito ng hormone na tinatawag na etonogestrel or levonorgestrel, na katulad ng sa progesterone. So, pina-prevent nito yung ovulation. So, next. Paano ba 'to ginagamit? Yan. So, hindi tayo pwedeng maglagay nito basta-basta. So, sabi diyan, gynecologist will insert the implant usually sa non-dominant arm. So, bakit sa non-dominant arm? Siyempre, para hindi natin siya magalaw-galaw. Ayan, hindi natin masyadong mabugbog yung implant. And then, kung tatanggalin naman natin, yung doctor yung maglalagay ng small incision and then tweezers para matanggal yun. So, ang success rate niya is 99%. So, kung nagtatanong kayo kung meron yan sa Pilipinas, yes po, meron po siya. Kung PhilHealth member po kayo, 3,000 lang po siya. Next. Hormonal injection. So, ito, isa to sa talamak na ginagamit ng mga tao. So, gaya nun sa mga nauna, naglalabas din to ng hormones dahil sabi nga sa pangalan, hormonal. So, yon, naglalabas siya ng hormones na tinatawag na medroxyprogesterone and progesterone. And ina-administer to through IM every 12 weeks. So, if na-inject na 'to, naaapektuhan nito yung cervical mucus gaya ng sinabi kanina ni Mr. Narvaez and naaapektuhan nito yung endometrium kaya nape-prevent nito yung ovulation. So, paano ba 'to ginagamit? So, gaya nga ng sinabi ko kanina, IM route, pero ang kaibahan nito 'di ba kapag nag-inject ka nga sa, through IM, mina-massage niyo kasi ang sakit. So, dito hindi puwedeng i-massage daw sabi, para mas ma-absorb ng dahan-dahan yung gamot. So, next. Yan. Gaya nga sabi ko kanina, ito yung isa sa, talamak na ginagamit. So, ang efficiency niya is 100%. Pero dito, sabi dito, once na ito yung ginamit mo, um, ina-advise na yung mga babae is kumain ng, mga pagkaing mataas sa calcium since may risk nga na puwedeng mag-acquire ay puwede nilang makuha yung decreased bone mineral density. Yan. Next. Yan, IUD or intrauterine, device. So, it is a tiny T-shaped device that is implanted through the vagina into the uterus. So, meron daw 2 types of IUD. So, copper IUD, a compact T-shaped plastic, and copper IUD is called a copper. So, may copper siya kaya tinawag siyang copper IUD. So, ang nilalabas naman nito sa uterus is copper. So, it can last for 5 years. Next is ang next slide po. Ang hormonal IUD. Yan. So, the hormonal IUDs are tiny plastic T-shaped implants. A hormone called progestogen is gradually released into your uterus, similar to the hormone made by the ovaries progestogen. It can last for 10 years. So, ang kaibahan na itong dalawang IUD, ang copper IUD, yan nasa pangalan niya na, yung copper IUD is nagpo-produce siya ng copper sa uterus while yung hormonal is nagpo-produce naman siya ng hormone sa IUD. Ay, sa IUD, sa uterus. Next slide po. Yan. Both hormonal and copper IUD have 99% effectiveness in preventing pregnancy. So, yan po yung itsura ng IUD. So, kung gusto niyong ma-picture yung kung gaano siya kalaki, kasing laki lang po siya ng piso daw, ng yan, piso. So, kung nagtatanong kayo kung meron ulit sa Pilipinas, yan, meron po siya 10 to 15K kung copper, 15 to 20K kung hormonal. Next. Chemical barriers. So, it is also possible to use chemical barriers such as spermicides, vaginal gels, lotions, and glycerin films to kill sperm before they reach the cervix and to lower the pH of the vagina so that it won't create an ideal environment for the sperm. So itong chemical barriers para siyang bygone sa sperm. So paano ba 'to ginagamit? So, meron siyang applicator and then, ipapasok siya sa vagina ta's ipipisit siya dun malapit sa cervix. So para, mapatay yung, lalapit na sperm. So next. Ayan, ganyan po yung itsura niya. So, sabi dito, yung chemical barriers, hindi tayo mapoprotektahan yan sa mga sexually transmitted infection. Pero, ito daw ay mabibili sa mga over-the-counter. So, ang success rate lang nito is 80%. So, hindi siya gaano ka-effective compared sa mga nauna. Next. Diaphragm. So, a diaphragm acts by preventing sperm from entering the vagina. It is a rubber disc that fits the cervix and is supposed to be inserted prior to coitus. So, paano ba 'to ginagamit? So, yung doktor, ifi-fit yung diaphragm dun mismo sa cervix. So, yan sabi diyan 'no, dapat, may diaphragm ka na bago ka mag-coitus or mag-sexual intercourse. Siyempre, dahil hindi naman yan magiging effective kung tsaka mo lang siya ilalagay after ng, sexual intercourse niyo. So, dapat daw, kahit after ng sexual intercourse niyo for 6 hours, andun pa rin yung diaphragm and then tatanggalin mo siya, for maximum of 24 hours lang. Hindi dapat lalampas dahil magko-cause yan ng irritation and inflammation. So, next. Yan, yung iba ginagamit yung diaphragm and then spermicide ng sabay para mas mataas yung, success rate na hindi mabuntis. So, sabi diyan may 6 potential failure rate once na ayan yung ginamit mo, yung diaphragm and spermicide. So, tinatawag ko na po yung next reporter, Miss Raisa.
Thank you, Ms. Songlao. And for the continuation ng artificial method, we have the cervical cup. So yung cervical cup, it is a small silicone or rubber cup you insert into your vagina before sexual intercourse to help prevent pregnancy. It covers your cervix so sperm can't reach the egg. So same lang siya sa diaphragm. Ang kinaibahan lang nito is mas maliit siya. So mas sakto siya sa cervix ng babae. And compare sa diaphragm, mas tumatagal to, like up to 48 hours siya. And it works by preventing sperm from entering the uterus. And yung ibang tao, ginagamitan siya ng spermicide, like nabanggit kanina, is spermicides are a chemical substance that kills the sperm. And yung pag-fit nito is, kailangan din ng tulong ng healthcare provider para malaman kung sakto or nandun siya sa pinaka-cervix. Meron siya 3 available different sizes, at ang approved na brand ng US and currently ginagamit sa Philippines ay ang FemCap. Next slide. So how effective is the cervical cap? So yung hindi tulad siya ng ibang contraceptive, ang cervical caps ay less effective siya sa pag-prevent ng pregnancy, hindi tulad ng mga patches, rings, or IUDs. And ang cervical cap ay hindi siya pwede gamitin ng mga taong nanganak na like natural birth, nagkaroon na ng miscarriage, nagkaroon na ng abortion. Since yung vagina or yung cervical or cervix is nagsa-stretch na, so hindi na nagiging ganun ka-fit yung cervical cap kahit na merong 3 different sizes. And then from DOH, it is about 68 to 80% ang effectiveness ng cervical cap. So next slide po. So male condoms. A condom is a thin, loose-fitting pouch or sheet that protects against sexually transmitted diseases, STDs or STIs. It can also prevent pregnancy. Male condoms work by keeping the fluid that contains the sperm from entering the vagina. So, pag gumagamit tayo ng condom, make sure na maglalagay tayo nito bago tayo makipag-sexual intercourse. Like, before pa. Like, mag-start pa lang kayo, naglagay ka na. And bago natin ito ilagay, make sure natin na hindi siya expired, hindi sira yung packaging. Kasi kung expired or sira yung packaging, parang useless din yung paggamit mo ng condom kasi may chance talaga na makabuntis ka or mabuntis ka and makakuha ka ng disease or infections. So, ang pagsusuot ng condom is, need mong i-pinch yung tip ng condom para ma-prevent yung accumulation ng air. Kasi pag nagkaroon siya ng air doon, habang ina-unroll mo siya up to the base, so may chance na mag-expand yung latex since nagkakaroon siya ng air. So, pag nagkaroon ng secretions yung lalaki, pwedeng ma-expand siya lalo, so may chance na mapunit yung condom. So next slide. So ang effectivity ng condom is up to 98%, which is highly effective at preventing STDs such as herpes simplex virus, and it can also reduce the transmission ng human immunodeficiency virus or HIV up to 71 to 80%. It also reduces the chance of pregnancy. So para ito yung external condom, so external na protection natin sa pregnancy, sa mga diseases. So yung condom sizes nag-range sa small to extra large. So you don't have wala ka pwedeng i-reason out na walang saktong size for you. And ang pagpili ng size ng condom is dapat sakto siya. Kasi kung masyado siyang masikip, may chance sa mapunit, which is yun yung pinaka-iniiwasan. Pag masyadong maluwag, pwede siyang mag-slip, pwede siyang maiwan, pwede siyang matanggal sa pinaka-penis ng lalaki. So, may chance pa rin. So, pag nangyari yon, it reduces the condom's effectiveness sa pagpre-prevent ng STD at pagpre-prevent ng pregnancy. So kahit gaano karami pang types, kinds ang condom, make sure na sakto siya sa size mo. Next slide. So female condom. So same lang siya sa male condoms. Ang kinaibahan lang nito is sa loob siya ng vagina. So it covers the vagina, which creates a barrier na nagpe-prevent ng sperm sa pag-reach sa egg. A female condom can be put into the vagina before sex and make sure na walang penetration na nangyayari bago mo pa ilagay itong female condom. Kasi kung nagkaroon na ng penetration, medyo useless na din ang paglalagay ng female condom kasi ang pre-cum is pwedeng makabuntis. And yung pag nakalagay na yung female condom, make sure na sakto sa gitna yung pagpasok ng penis kasi may chance na sa in between nung latex at ng vagina mag-go through yung penis. So next slide. Ang effectivity ng female condom is 95% kasi nga may chances na mag-go in between ng latex at ng vagina yung penis. So, same again with the male condoms. Pag gumamit tayo nito, make sure na hindi sira yung packaging at make sure na hindi expired para hindi rin ma-reduce yung effectiveness nito. Next slide. So, proceed tayo sa surgical methods. Tinatawag siyang sterilization, which is a permanent method of birth control. Sterilization procedures for women are called tubal sterilization or commonly called as tubal ligation. Then sa mga lalaki is tinatawag na vasectomy. Sterilization is considered as a safe procedure with few complications. Next slide. So vasectomy, it is a surgical procedure that stops the sperm from leaving your body. So kina-close na yung ends ng vas deferens. It's either cauterized, cut, or block para hindi mag-go through yung sperm or hindi sumama yung sperm sa semen pag nag-ejaculate yung lalaki. How does vasectomy works? It stops the sperm from getting into a man's semen. So yung semen ng lalaki, after niya magpa-vasectomy ay wala dang sperm na kasama. So yung egg ng babae ay hindi ma-fertilize. So, meron tayong two types ng vasectomy. First is the incision vasectomy, which is an incision made on each side of the scrotum to reach the vas deferens. So, parang ito yung parang ito yung medyo invasive na procedure, yung incision vasectomy. So, next slide. So, no scalpel vasectomy. So, yung vas deferens are held with a clamp from outside the scrotum and the needle is used to make a small hole in the scrotum for access to the duct. So, yung no scalpel, magkakaroon ng maliit na butas pero hindi na kailangan ng stitches unlike the incision vasectomy. So, yung hole sa no scalpel vasectomy is pwede siya mag-heal on its own. So, the failure rate of vasectomy is very low. So, in rare cases, meron lang 1 in 10,000 cases. So, kaya siya kinoconsider as a safe and successful birth control method for many years. And before ka, or like after mo magpa-vasectomy, hindi ka agad pwede makipag sexual intercourse kasi need mo na magkaroon ka ng negative sperm count. So, ginagawa yun is like yung semen samples ay chinecheck siya after vasectomy para ma-confirm kung successful ba yung procedure na wala talagang semen, ay wala talagang sperm doon sa semen ng lalaki. And if ever magpapa-vasectomy is around 25,000 to 60,000 pesos yung procedure na to. And pwede siya mabawasan with PhilHealth and HMO. Next slide. So, yan, makikita natin yung itsura or like yung paano yung ginagawa kapag incision vasectomy and yung no scalpel vasectomy. So, pag incision vasectomy is like nilalabas or kinaklamp yung vas deferens para dun din, parang lalabas siya din, dun siya puputulin. So, magkakaroon talaga siya ng incision na kailangan i-suture. Pag no scalpel vasectomy is like small hole lang talaga siya and it can heal on its own. Next slide po. So, for the tubal ligation, karamihan natawag siya na, or pagsasabi na getting your tubes tied, it is a surgical procedure na kung saan kinakat, binablock, or sinseal off yung fallopian tubes ng babae para ma-prevent yung pagiging fertilized ng eggs ng sperm, like yung eggs ng babae. Then, how does the tubal ligation works? It prevents an egg from traveling from the ovaries through the fallopian tubes. It blocks the sperm from traveling up the fallopian tube. So, yun. Then, common type ng tubal ligation is yung mini laparotomy. Ano lang siya, small incision lang siya na ginagawa sa navel ng isang tao or isang babae, and under general anesthesia siya. Magkakaroon na small cut sa abdomen. It is a less invasive na procedure lang naman to para maputol, ma-cauterize, or ma-block yung fallopian tubes. Karaniwan or kadalasan na ginagawa to is like sa mga after mga anak. Yung like pag okay na sila sa numbers of anak nila, magpapaligate na sila. Yung iba ginagawa to like pag normal delivery, a day after normal delivery sila nagpapaligate. Kapag pag cesarean section naman, like that day mismo, doon na pinapaligate yung tubes nila. Next slide po. So, highly effective and convenient ang tubal ligation. 99% effective siya sa pagpe-prevent ng pregnancy kasi convenient siya in a way na hindi mo na kailangan mag-take ng birth control pills, hindi mo na kailangan mag-wear ng condoms or anything, or like mga other birth control or mga contraceptives, ganon. Pero, hindi ibig sabihin, nape-prevent niya lang yung pregnancy, pero same with vasectomy, hindi niya nape-prevent yung pag-a-acquire ng isang tao ng diseases kasi nagkakaroon pa rin ng skin-to-skin interaction, like yung body fluids ng isang tao is nagkakaroon ka pa rin ng interaction with the body fluids ng isang tao. So, sa illustration, nakikita dyan na yung cauterized, tied and cut, and banded or clip. Yan yung mga types ng paglaligate ng fallopian tube. Yung cauterized is ginagamitan ng Bovi, which is yun yung parang sinusunog. Then, next is yung tinatied and cut. Parang yan yung pinaka-traditional way. Then, yung banded or clips. Kaya siguro 99% effective lang siya due to the banded or clip kasi may chance na mag-slip yung clip sa fallopian tubes. And if ever na may plan na magpa-tubal ligation sa public hospitals, it is around 10,000 to 20,000 pesos. Sa private hospitals, it is around 50 to 70,000 pesos. And again, same with the vasectomy, pwede pa siyang bumaba yung price due to PhilHealth and HMO. So, and that is all for the natural and artificial family planning. Thank you for listening and good morning to everyone.
Okay, mag-share lang ako ng screen. Okay, so dahil 'di ba may exam na kayo, yung comprehensive exam, so make sure alam yung menstrual cycle. So sa menstrual cycle natin, para hindi ma-overwhelm dito sa figure, always check kung ano yung laman nung figure. So dito sa table, sa figure na 'to, so dito sa bandang part, so makikita nyo yung uterine events, ovarian hormonal levels, ovarian events, yung sa follicles, and then the pituitary hormone levels. Review lang ha ng menstrual cycle. Kasi na-discuss yung ating family planning method. In relation to din kasi dun sa problem na nakita nyo sa butot balat, yung maraming anak. So usual, pag na-expose din sa community, maraming makikita na yung isang household masyadong maraming members, okay? So, at saka part din to sa community yung nagtuturo ng family planning method. So, review ng menstrual cycle. Again, check the uterine events, ovarian hormonal levels, ovarian events, and the pituitary hormone levels. So, lahat yan may nangyayaring events. Kasi nga, meron tayong tinatawag, di ba, yung negative and positive feedback. Okay, so, lahat, bali, dito sa nangyayari muna dito sa kung naaalala niyo yung tinuro sa inyo nung anatomy, so 'di ba sa brain, doon mismo specifically sa ating hypothalamus, meron tayong nire-release na GnRH. So yung GnRH na yon from the hypothalamus, magta-travel yon papunta kay anterior pituitary gland. So 'di ba we have anterior and posterior pituitary gland. So your GnRH stimulate niya yung magta-travel yon papunta sa anterior pituitary gland. Tapos doon magbabind na yun sa receptor na yon. Kapag nagbind na yung doon sa from anterior pituitary gland, magkakaroon na tayo ng release ng ating luteinizing hormone tsaka ng FSH. So yung luteinizing hormone and FSH, magta-travel yon papunta sa ating bloodstream, di papunta ngayon sa ating ovaries. Ngayon, pagdating nun sa ovaries, yung ating LH and FSH will bind to the ovaries and they stimulate the production ng estrogen together with your inhibin. Okay, so saang part ng pituitary gland? Anterior. From hypothalamus, yung GnRH. Hypothalamus secretes GnRH. So your GnRH will travel down to your anterior pituitary gland and bind to that specific receptor. So yung receptor na yon magre-release ng luteinizing and follicle stimulating hormone. Kaya nga follicle stimulating hormone, nasan ba ang follicles mo? Nasa ovaries. Ngayon, yung luteinizing hormone mo and FSH, magbabind yun sa ating ovaries to stimulate the production of your estrogen and inhibin. So kung makikita mo dito sa pituitary hormone levels, kapag may menstruation, yung FSH mo mababa and your LH. Kapag naman nasa follicular phase ka, magkakaroon ng tinatawag nating LH surge. LH surge, pagtaas ng LH together with your FSH. But remember, in terms of pituitary part, yung nangyayari sa ating higher order function, yung LH surge. So, laging tinatanong to class sa boards, yung LH surge. Saan nangyayari ang LH surge? In terms of uterine events, sa follicular phase, nagkakaroon ng LH surge. Bakit sa follicular phase? Kasi nga, ang ating LH at FSH, magta-travel yun sa bloodstream, papunta sa ovaries, and they will stimulate production of estrogen. Kaya follicular, di ba? Follicular stimulating hormone. Pagdating sa follicular phase, magkakaroon ng LH surge. Ngayon, yung ating estrogen will help to regulate our menstrual cycle. So, yung inhibin naman, cause inhibition of activin. So, nice to know yung inhibin. But remember, kapag na may dalawa tayong nire-release na yung ovaries natin, estrogen and inhibin. Ngayon, si FSH, so from here, bukod sa, it will stimulate also the development of your ovarian follicle. So, ito yung developing ovarian follicle. So, it works hand in hand. So, kung ito yung nangyayari sa uterus, may nangyayari sa ovarian hormones, okay, kagaya nito, pagtaas. Same with ovarian events, tsaka pituitary hormonal levels. Ngayon, yung ating luteinizing hormone, magkokosto ng change dito sa ating ovarian event. So, ang nangyayari dyan, your luteinizing hormone causes the Graafian follicle to change into corpus luteum, which begins to produce progesterone. Kaya nga pagdating dito, habang yung ating Graafian follicle nagiging corpus luteum na, tumataas na rin yung levels ng progesterone. Unlike dito, habang developing pa lang yung follicle, yung progesterone mo mababa pa. Kapag naging corpus luteum na, magkakaroon na ng pagtaas ng progesterone because yung ating corpus luteum, magsisignal yan ng production ng ating progesterone. So what will happen now to progesterone? It stimulates the endometrium to become receptive for the implementation na ng ating fertilized ovum kung meron man. Kaya pagdating mo dito, kung mataas na yung progesterone level mo, kakapal na rin itong lining ng uterus mo kasi nga nag-e-expect na merong fertilized ovum na pupunta dito. Pero if wala, magkakaroon tayo ng menstrual cycle. So magkakaroon tayo ng regression ng corpus luteum, bababa rin yung iyong pituitary hormonal level. So another cycle ulit. Okay, so saan nangyayari ang LH surge? Sa follicular phase. Saan tumataas ang progesterone? Sa luteal phase. Okay, so review lang ng menstrual cycle. Next question. What is the association between oral contraceptive pills and yung cancer risk? So just to clear lang, baka kasi may nagtitik din dito ng pills, biglang tinigil yung pag-inom ng pills. So, wag matakot in terms of association ng pills and cancer risk. Kasi as healthcare professionals, alam natin kung ano yung pinaka-cause kung bakit ba nagkakaroon ng cervical cancer, breast cancer, ovarian cancer, and other maternal cancers related to female. So, okay. Huwag basta-basta ititigil yung pills, lalo na kung indicated ang pills sa'yo in terms if meron kang PCOS, treating other conditions. Okay? So, meron po bang relationship ang pills tsaka cancer? Merong association, but remember, sa ating cervical cancer, diba, ang pinaka-cause pa rin naman yan is HPV. Nagkaroon lang ng mild at temporary na pagtaas ng chance na mag-develop ng cervical cancer sa mga female patient na gumagamit ng pills. Pero hindi ibig sabihin nun, pag nag-pills ka, magkaka-cancer ka sa cervix. Kasi nga yung human papilloma virus pa rin ang number 1 cause ng cervical cancer at hindi yung ating pills or injectables. Pero kasi class, mas mataas pa rin yung kapag naman sa breast cancer, so di ba kaya nga may precaution, hindi pwedeng ibigay ang OCP sa taong may diagnose ng breast cancer kasi mas nagkakaroon din ng chance. Kaso ito ay mild lang or temporary din yung pagtaas ng pagkakaroon ng breast cancer. Pero kung ikaw ay diagnosed na ng breast cancer, hindi pwede sa'yo yung option ng pills kasi it's related na nga dun sa increase. Pero kung wala ka namang medical history ng breast cancer or family history, pwede kang mag-pills. Pero after mo kasing gumamit, so mapapansin nyo dito, pag tungtong niya ng 10 years, bumababa na yung risk. So ibig sabihin sa 10 years na pag-inom ng pills, bababa na ulit yung risk. Kaya wag basta-basta ihinto yung pills, lalo na kung walang abiso ng doktor. Okay? Again, di ba ang breast cancer natin, ano ba yung pinaka-risk factor nun? Siyempre, kung may family history ng breast cancer, yun yung number 1 cause na maaari ka magka-cancer, hindi yung pills. Kasi after 10 years ng paggamit mo ng pills, bababa na din yung risk. Same with cervical cancer. Okay, dito naman class, kung makikita nyo, merong ovarian cancer at saka yung mga endometrial cancer. So kapag naman gumagamit ka ng pills, mas mababa naman yung tsansa na magkaroon ka ng ovarian or endometrial cancer. Then lalo pang bumababa yan habang tumatagal yung pag-inom ng pills. So laging i-educate ang mga client, lalo na sa community or kung may relative na umiinom ng pills, na wag basta-basta ititigil yun. Kasi hindi yun. Again, taking the combined contraceptive pill temporarily increases the risk of breast and cervical cancer, pero yung long term ay nagkakaroon ng reduction ng risk. Kasi again, always educate them, cervical cancer, HPV, breast cancer ay familial history. Pero after 10 years of taking the pills, bababa na yung chance. Okay? And remember, mas maganda pa rin yung benefits ng pills kasi wala pa tayong mismong, tawag dito, diagnostic, wala pa tayo tawag dito, hindi pa ganong nadadiagnose ang ovarian cancer in terms of diagnostic test unlike sa cervical and breast cancer. Diba? So, mas maganda pa rin yung tinutuloy mo lang yung pag-inom lang pills, lalo na kung nireseta to for PCOS, endometriosis, so yung mga ganong bagay. Okay? So, next. Ma'am, may effect ba yung pag-inom ng pills versus kung ako ay naninigarilyo? Kasi class, yung paninigarilyo class, di ba, mataas na yung chance na magkaroon ka ng mga thrombotic events, maaring magkaroon ng thrombosis, increase yung risk ng thrombosis, kasi nga, remember, ang smoking, nakakataas yan ng atherosclerotic event. Kaya nga, kapag nagre-recommend ng pag-inom ng pills, so kailangan ay always check kung ang patient mo ay pasok sa BMI, may smoking history ba, or older than 35 years. Kasi itong mga patient na to, yung tumataas yung chance na magkaroon ng increased risk ng thrombotic events. So, ma'am, paano kung naninigarilyo? Pwede pa naman, kaso nga lang, ikino-compute kasi yung pack years nun. So, nagko-compute kami ng smoking pack years, kung ilang years na naninigarilyo yung patient bago namin resetahan ng pills. Kaya usually, ang nire-recommend namin, hindi combined oral contraceptive pills, kundi yung progestin only o kaya yung non-estrogen containing na pills so that yung increased risk na mag-develop ng thromboembolism mawala. Okay? Kasi yun yung pine-prevent natin. Kaya usually kapag matagal nang naninigarilyo, more on progestin only pills. Okay? Okay, class. So, next reporter, please. Thank you. Class break muna, 10 minutes. Wait lang.